December 4th, 1872. The Atlantic Ocean is a vast, unforgiving expanse. A lone ship cuts through the gray, rolling waves. On the horizon, another vessel appears. It's a brigantine. Its sails partially set, but it moves erratically, not holding a steady course. The captain of the Dei Gratia, David Morehouse, watches through his spyglass. He recognizes the ship, the Mary Celeste. He knew its captain. They had even dined together in New York just before their respective voyages began a few weeks earlier. But something is deeply wrong. The ship is yawing, drifting at the mercy of the wind and current. No one is at the helm. For hours, the Dei Gratia observes. They hail the ship but receive no answer. Only the sound of wind and creaking wood replies. The silence is unnerving. A fully rigged ship sailing on its own with no sign of life, a ghost ship in the making. Captain Morehouse makes a decision. He must know what has happened. He orders a small party to board the mysterious vessel. As the rowboat approaches, the silence of the larger ship becomes even more profound. The name on the stern confirms it, Mary Celeste. The boarding party prepares to climb aboard, stepping from their small, familiar world into the heart of an enduring maritime mystery. The first man over the rail lands on a deck slick with sea spray. The ship is deserted. The silence is absolute. The sails are in a state of disarray, some torn, suggesting they were caught in heavy weather, but the rigging is largely intact. They check the ship's pumps. Surprisingly, there's only a small amount of water in the hold, normal for a ship of this size. The vessel is perfectly seaworthy. There is no obvious reason for it to have been abandoned. The mystery only deepens with every step. The main hatch is secure, but the forward and lazarette hatches are open, their covers laid beside them on the deck. One of the most significant discoveries is on deck. The ship's only lifeboat, a small yawl, is missing from its storage. Did the crew abandon ship? If so, why? The Mary Celeste herself was in far better condition than a small, open boat. The men exchange uneasy glances. The ship feels not just empty, but as if it was left in a great hurry. They decide to venture below deck into the cabins, hoping to find answers, but they would only find more questions. The air grows still as they descend, leaving the sound of the wind for the heavy, oppressive silence of the ship's heart. Below deck, the scene is even stranger. The crew's quarters are tidy, their sea chests and belongings still in place. Money and valuables are untouched. Tobacco pipes lay on tables as if their owners had just stepped out for a moment. This was no pirate raid. Pirates would have ransacked the ship, taking everything of value. This was something else entirely. They move to the captain's cabin. Here, the scene is even more personal and haunting. A life, interrupted mid-moment. Captain Briggs's wife and young daughter were also on board. Toys are found scattered, a small dress neatly folded. A sewing machine with a piece of fabric still under the needle sits on a table, a testament to domestic life at sea. In the galley, the ship's kitchen, provisions are plentiful. There's enough food and fresh water for 6 months. A breakfast table appears to be set, though the plates are slightly displaced. Everything suggests a sudden departure, not a planned one. The ship was a floating home, a capsule of life adrift in the ocean, and now that life was simply gone. There are no signs of a struggle, no damage, just an overwhelming, inexplicable absence that hangs heavy in the air. While personal valuables were left, crucial navigational instruments were missing. The ship's chronometer and sextant were gone. These instruments were essential for navigating the open ocean. Taking them suggests a planned departure from the ship. The ship's registration papers were also missing. This further supports the theory that Captain Briggs intentionally abandoned his vessel. But this contradicts everything else. Why take navigational tools but leave behind money, clothing, and personal keepsakes? And why abandon a perfectly sound ship for a tiny lifeboat in the middle of the vast, unpredictable Atlantic Ocean? One strange discovery in the captain's cabin was a sword laid on his bed. Some reports claimed it had marks on it. However, the salvage hearing later clarified there were no such marks. Just another layer of myth added to the growing legend. A rope was found trailing behind the ship, its end frayed and broken. Was it tied to the missing lifeboat? Perhaps they towed the lifeboat, waiting for a perceived danger to pass, and the line snapped, setting them adrift. Every clue was a contradiction. Every piece of evidence opened a new door of possibility while closing none. The most crucial piece of evidence was the ship's logbook, found on the mate's desk in the main cabin. Its pages chronicled the voyage from New York. The entries were routine, detailing weather, position, and daily ship life. There was no mention of any trouble, no reports of severe storms, no hint of discord among the crew. The final entry was made at 8 a.m. on November 25th, 9 days before the ship was found by the Dei Gratia. It simply noted the ship's position, placing it near the Azores Islands. Then, the entries just stop. The abrupt end is bone-chilling. Whatever happened, it happened after 8 a.m. on that November morning. On a slate in the captain's cabin, a further calculation was noted for later that same morning, suggesting continued routine. This timeline narrows the window for the crew's disappearance to a matter of hours on a seemingly normal day. The logbook, meant to be a record of the journey, became the central artifact of an unsolvable puzzle. Its silent pages tell a story not by what they say, but by the terrifying emptiness of what they don't. To understand the mystery, we must go back to the beginning. New York City, November 1872, a bustling port. The Mary Celeste is being loaded with its cargo, destined for Genoa, Italy. Her captain is Benjamin Spooner Briggs. Briggs was a respected, experienced mariner with an excellent reputation. He was a co-owner of the ship he commanded. He was not alone. He brought his wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, for the transatlantic journey. The presence of his family suggests Captain Briggs anticipated a safe and routine voyage, not one fraught with peril. The crew was small, but capable. 7 men in total, including the first mate Albert Richardson. All were experienced seamen. There was nothing to suggest this crew was anything but competent and trustworthy, handpicked by the discerning Captain Briggs. On November 7th, with a fair wind, the Mary Celeste left New York, sailing out into the Atlantic. Aboard was a family, a crew, and a cargo. 10 souls in total, beginning a journey from which they would never return. This hopeful beginning makes the silent, empty ship found weeks later all the more tragic and incomprehensible. The key to the mystery might lie deep in the ship's hold. The cargo consisted of 1,701 barrels of raw alcohol. When the Dei Gratia's crew inspected the hold, they found the barrels intact. The cargo appeared undisturbed. However, upon reaching Gibraltar, it was discovered that 9 of the barrels were empty. They were made of a more porous wood. This has led to one of the most prominent theories. The alcohol in these barrels could have vaporized and leaked. The buildup of volatile alcohol fumes in the confined space of the hold would have been immense and terrifying. Captain Briggs, fearing an imminent explosion, may have ordered everyone to abandon ship as a precaution. This would explain why the hatches were found open, to ventilate the dangerous fumes from the cargo hold. They may have boarded the lifeboat and trailed behind the ship with a rope, waiting for the danger to pass. But a sudden storm or a large wave could have snapped the line, leaving them hopelessly adrift in the vast ocean. This theory neatly explains the missing boat, the open hatches, and the lack of panic signs inside the ship. Not all theories are so neat. The initial inquiry in Gibraltar, led by a suspicious official, floated darker possibilities. Could there have been a mutiny? Perhaps the crew rose up against Captain Briggs for some unknown reason. This seems unlikely. The crew was well regarded, and Captain Briggs was known as a fair and reasonable commander. Furthermore, a mutiny would have involved a struggle, yet the ship was found in a state of relative order. Another theory suggested a dispute over the salvage rights between the crews of the Mary Celeste and the Dei Gratia. The idea was that the Dei Gratia's crew orchestrated the disappearance to claim the valuable ship and cargo. But Captain Morehouse and Captain Briggs were friends. And again, where were the 10 people from the Mary Celeste? The court of inquiry ultimately found no evidence of foul play on the part of the Dei Gratia's crew. Piracy was also considered, but dismissed. The valuable cargo and personal belongings of the crew were still on board. While sensational, theories of human wrongdoing lack the evidence to be convincing, leaving the mystery open to other explanations. If not human hands, perhaps it was the hand of nature that sealed the crew's fate. The ocean is full of sudden dangers. One theory proposes a seaquake, an underwater earthquake, which would have shaken the ship violently without causing major damage. The terrifying sound and motion, combined with the volatile alcohol cargo, could have been mistaken for an impending explosion. Another possibility is a waterspout. The crew might have seen one forming and temporarily abandoned ship to escape its path. Again, they could have trailed in the lifeboat, only for the tow line to snap, leaving them stranded. A rogue wave is another contender. A single, monstrous wave could have washed over the deck, sweeping people overboard. However, this would likely have caused more significant damage than what was observed on the ship when it was found. Some have even suggested an encounter with a giant squid or other unknown sea creature, a popular trope in maritime lore. While exciting, there is absolutely no physical evidence to support such a fantastical encounter. The ship bore no such marks. Natural phenomena provide plausible triggers for abandoning the ship, but the crew's ultimate fate remains a haunting question. The crew of the Dei Gratia split, with some men sailing the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar for the salvage hearing. Instead of being hailed as heroes, they were met with suspicion. The salvage award they received was unusually low. The Mary Celeste herself was eventually returned to her owners, but the ship seemed cursed by the event. She changed hands many times over the next decade, losing money for every owner who tried to make her profitable. Her final captain intentionally ran her aground on a reef in Haiti as part of an insurance fraud scheme. Even in her end, she refused to cooperate, failing to sink and exposing the fraud. A final, defiant act. But the fate of the ship is just a footnote. The true mystery is the fate of the 10 souls aboard. Captain Briggs, his wife, his young daughter, and the 7-man crew vanished without a trace from the face of the earth. The Mary Celeste became the quintessential ghost ship, her name a byword for unexplained disappearances at sea. The truth was lost to the waves, leaving behind only questions and a story that will be told as long as we sail the seas.